Gorth was float walking, as he normally did, hands behind his back, gawking around at the sights. And what sights they were! Metro stations, the Eiffel Tower, the Champs-Élysées. What did people see in this place, he wondered. It's awful, isn't it? He said to Daniel. I mean, is that pointy thing supposed to look like that? That's the Eiffel Tower, said Daniel. I've heard my dad speaking about that, and I don't think it's supposed to look like that. Not sure. It's pretty awful, though. Gorth was in a bad mood. The previous night had been a bust, and it was still wrangling him. They had simply not been able to float fast enough to catch the taxi, and had been forced to watch helplessly as it carried Daniel's dad away. Whatever had been following him had been fast enough, however, and they had lost that as well. It had been a dejected would-be posse that had retraced their steps last night, and now this. No, I don't think we're in Lancashire. Daniel looked around at the signs for the metro, all of the cars. There's something called the Tory Fell. Now, how did people ever like this place? I think it's worse than Lancashire. Is it Birmingham? Wherever this was, the chips were too big, that was for sure. Gorth was definitely starting to take this personally. Well, no one's going to want to come here, Gorth said. Not while the M62 is still working. Is it Paris? Daniel was slightly shocked. It was Paris, he was fairly sure of that, but it was not now. It was bad enough that it was still reeling from the fact they had floated above his own house the night before. Now somehow they were in France, but it wasn't the France of now. Whatever the eye of the storm was, it was persistent. They kept on going back in time somehow, but when was this? You do know this is the most romantic city in the world. Really? Said Gorth. Are you sure about that? That's what my dad says anyway. And he was here a lot. Well, back in the 90s. And thank you for asking, by the way. I saw him at breakfast. Daniel turned his face away from Gorth, who looked slightly abashed. This was his dad's favourite city. He started his travel career here. Well, that's what he'd always said anyway, that he always felt comfortable in Paris. And I'm glad he's safe anyway. But this place is awful. Gorth was beginning to think that the crater his ship had poured out of in the ground in Siberia was more attractive. This place was a dump. He wondered briefly what the Gallic for dump was. Probably le dump or something like that. Only the French would insist on giving a gender to a mess this big. Why don't you like it? Daniel could see the big riverboats cruising lazily along the Seine, the animated clutter of the elegant people sat at the street-side cafes, the sense of power, of majesty, of grandeur that came from being in one of the greatest of the European capitals. He had heard his dad speak about this place, talk about it almost with a sense of awe, with a sense of longing, but he'd never thought that it would look like this. It was true, whatever Gorth may say or think, there was nowhere quite like Paris. He noticed Gorth was still saying nothing, although he was smiling. So come on then, tell me, why don't you like this place? That's why. Gorth pointed to where a dog was very busily minding its own and everybody else's business. But it wasn't the dog that had captured Gorth's attention. It was the green motorbike that was scooping up the dog droppings, hoovering them and sticking them straight into a container on the back of the bike. 20 tons a day of that stuff they shift, said Gorth. It costs them so much to do it that pound for pound, its stuff works out more expensive than pâté foie gras. What is pâté? Asked Daniel innocently. You've never had pâté? No, and what's the problem with them cleaning up the dog mess? Well, how are you supposed to find anything? Gorth float kicked through a pile. It's wonderfully sticky stuff, ever so useful. Dogs are always collecting it. They use it for all sorts of things. No, they don't, said Daniel. Oh yes they do. In the Labradoodle star system, they've involved an entire form of architecture that only uses dog droppings. What, they live in houses made of, yes, dog poo. Absolutely amazing. It has the tensile strength beyond that of steel. If you superheat it in a nuclear forge, then supercool it in a hadron collider, and then stretch it, wouldn't it be easier just to use bricks? Daniel was failing to see the point of this. He may well only be 10 years old and disabled, but he knew you never built a house out of dog droppings. See, not in the Labradoodle system. They have millions and millions of dogs, but they only have one tree. This led to all sorts of problems. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, the line of dogs was almost endless. They decided they had to do something with all the dog droppings. They weren't made of gold after all. So the solid stuff they turned into building material and exported it all over the galaxy. Well, did anybody buy it? Only the residents of the Crinkle Cat cluster. They had the opposite problem. 6 billion cats on their planet. They had to build a cat litter tray the size of Milton Keynes. Wow. Wow indeed. So guess what they built it out of? Ordinary bricks. You are smart, aren't you? How did you know that? Well, because they want the cats to go in it. Exactly. Gorth, what did they do with all the we? Not sure. Gorth shrugged his shoulders. It all got shipped to the planet Iron Brew and then simply disappeared. It'll turn up though. So, what actually are we here for? There has to be a connection between the Eye of the Storm and you. The question is where and what. Have you been to Paris before? Gorth looked around at all the incredible sights. Ugh, bit of a shudder. No, I don't think so. My dad's been here lots though. Are you sure? Yeah, that's him over there. What, with all the old people? Yeah, that's him. How old is your father? Well, he's pretty old. He remembers the internet when it was dial-up. Wow. So what's he doing here? Well, all those old people are passengers. He's taking them to, I don't know, really, really exotic places. He went all over the world, you know. Really? Oh yeah. Wait a minute, look at that. Daniel stopped looking towards his father, who had been using his painfully accented French to explain to the policeman that the engine of the coach was full of eels. What? Gorth was still watching. He was fairly sure the police were getting angry. They were going to shoot somebody soon. That had happened to him in the past. Twice, in fact, though neither time had he been on a coach or in Paris. The strange coincidence, though, that he had a baguette stuffed in his trousers at the time. Forget that. Look at that girl over there. Daniel had noticed something nobody else had. There was another figure floating transparently a few centimetres off the ground. She was sitting with her feet in, but not actually in, the fountains. She was also crying. Although she was not crying, she was sobbing, and her shoulders were heaving as she floated above the fountain. It looked like her heart was breaking. We should go. Gorth took a look at her. Another dasher could be very dangerous. For all we know, she could be... Daniel? Daniel, where are you going? Hello, said Daniel as he floated over to the girl. He stopped to look at her closely. She was about his age, a little bit older, pretty in a snub-nosed way, with short blonde hair and a few freckles. Though her face was so contorted with grief, it was hard to tell. Hello, she looked up startled, stifling another one of the sobs. You can see me? Yeah, you can see me. My name is Daniel. He could see the streaks where the girl had been sobbing. Why are you so upset? He asked. I died, she said simply. Oh, well, there was really no answer to that. I died, then I got stuck here, in Paris, like this. She lifted her tear-stained face. Are you dead as well? Me? Dan shook his head. No, not me, I'm dreaming. Well, what about that? The girl pointed to Gorth. That, said Gorth. He, said Daniel, is an alien. Oh, he's the dreaming thief. He's in my dream. Well, that's nice. So am I in your dream? At least she'd stop crying now. My name is Charlotte, by the way. Charlotte Flowers. She held her hand out, and they both grinned as their hands passed through each other. Daniel, and that is Gorthlingus the Cunning over there, the blue one. Hello, Mr. Cunning. Charlotte did not seem surprised at all to be on nodding terms with the blue alien. And then thought Daniel, if you think you're dead, then your expectations are bound to change a bit. Yeah, whatever. Look, come on Daniel, we're supposed to be looking for clues. Well, I think we just found one. Well, I don't. Come on, we have work to do. That's a bit rude, Gorth. What's wrong with you? We don't know who she is, or why we're here, or what she is. She could be anybody. Gorth looked around nervously. This could even be a trap. Negative, your largeness. There was the voice of Custard again, emanating from Gorth's sleeve. Daniel really wished that his sleeve worked like that, but whatever he tried, nothing happened. There are no traces of Shirley or her minions in this timeline. This could just be a coincidence, but they do seem to be linked somehow. In fact, she might be part of this. Oh no, Gorth looked up melodramatically, as if he did not have enough problems now that we're going to be stuck with a girl. Am I dreaming too then? Asked Charlotte towards Daniel. I don't know, but you can see him. Daniel pointed to Gorth. Yes, what did you say he was? A cunning something? He is Gorth Lingus the Cunning, Daniel smiled. That man there with the bucket under all the steam. The one that the French policemen are shouting at. Yeah, that's him. He's my dad. So the fat blue... Hey! Well, that's Gorth. He's my friend. Well, my name is Charlotte, not Charlie, before you ask. Are you French? No, why would I be? She nodded as Daniel pointed towards the Eiffel Tower. Oh, yeah, see your point. Well, no, actually I'm from Dudley. Oh, okay. Daniel, hey Daniel. Gorth looked agitated. Don't talk to her anymore. Tell her we're too busy. This is Paris. It's a big city. We've got lots to do. Why are you being so rude to her? Look, we don't know anything about her. She could be from anywhere. She's from the West Midlands. Besides, she could say the same about you. Me? Gorth looked astonished at the very thought. I'm from Tea-Cake Prime, in the Crumpet Quadrant. What's strange about that? No, nothing, not strange at all. Charlotte giggled, as did Daniel. Well, it's not strange to me. Anyway, why are you getting so agitated about this? Daniel, look, we don't need a girl slowing us down. I heard that. Charlotte floated over, her fists clenched. I may only be 11, but don't pull that she's just a girl rubbish on me. All right. Gorth nodded in acquiescence, his eyes downcast. She is, though, he whispered to Daniel. And she's dead. That's not a very good combination. What? What do you mean, not a good combination? Oh, nothing. She must be here for the same reason we are, the eye of the storm. Daniel tried to reason with Gorth. He'd never seen this side of him before. What's the eye of the storm? Charlotte was immediately suspicious. Well, it's quite hard to explain. Yeah, let me do it, said Gorth. I won the All Scone Award 2 years running. When it came to famous crumpet citizens, I was right at the top of the list. I thought you said you were a notorious criminal, said Daniel. Well, I got better, said Gorth. Well, I don't trust you, said Charlotte. You're too blue. Well, I don't trust you, said Gorth. You're too girly. Daniel sighed, and Float stepped between them. This was really not helping anybody. I think, he said, that we all have very little choice here. What do you mean? Somehow, Paris is the key. We're all being drawn here to Paris. We're all in this together. Gorth crossed the galaxy. Yeah, not easy in my ship. Well, Gorth crossed the galaxy to find a Dasher. Turns out he may have found two. Daniel paused to look at the girl. Turns out, Charlotte, you could probably use our help as well. Why? She was still glaring at Gorth, who was backing away slowly. Because the Eye of the Storm picked you, just like it picked me. We're linked. But what about him? I think he comes as part of the package. Daniel nodded at Gorth. He's the only one who seems to know what's going on. But does he always dress like that? I think he does. Well, all right then, I'll come with you. But only because I was lonely. So, where do we start? I thought you said Dashers were rare. Gorth was talking into his sleeve again. Now we've got two of them. A good one and... Careful, said Charlotte. And another one, said Garth. Well, the other one is staying. Daniel was adamant. We're not leaving her here crying. She comes with us. Fine, fine. So where are we going then? Well, I don't know. Warning! The shout that came from Garth's sleeve made them all jump. Custard, what's wrong? Watch out, everybody. Something is monitoring us.